All right. Hey everyone. So today I want to do an honorary video of Lee Robinson, who just got promoted to the head of developer relations at Vercel. He basically, it's been a huge inspiration to me and I think to everyone else in the Next.js community. Um, his, main point of contact is really his website to me, which I often browse for inspiration. It's completely built with Next.js, MDX, Tailwind, of course, and deployed on Vercel. But that was kind of a given one. What's really cool about his website is he's trying to build in this like massive portfolio that he has into all these kind of things. So from photography to music to code snippets, and even incorporating new and fun ways of interacting with his website, like a guestbook feature, for example, that he added. And yeah, that's super cool. Of course, he's running Next.js. It's the latest Canary version. Vercel just announced also a special Next.js conference for the summer. So that's also super interesting. Kind of love what they did with their website and Replicache, but that's another story. I kind of hope that Leroy will also implement this on his website. Yeah, that's kind of cool. But yeah, without further ado, oh, wait, one last thing. I wanted to show you guys this license for anyone, who has not seen this repo or has not seen his website. His license is pretty much straightforward. It's a great website. Don't copy it directly, but draw inspiration from it, and wherever you take things from the website, do credit him if you find value in it, and if you do end up using parts of the code that you found in this repo. So this is how the website looks like with Tailwind. It's obviously got dark mode as well. He's got different kind of blog posts where he has actually a very cool way of showing how many views there were on that particular blog post. I mean, 76,000 views is kind of ridiculous, but that's the most popular for a good reason. And he's got this very cool timeline as well. He's just updated this today. Got promoted to head of DevRel at Vercel. Super happy for him and for the Next.js community. I think that's a huge win. He's got a newsletter, so do subscribe if you're interested in him or in Next.js in general. I think he has a lot of really cool posts here. What I really love is this snippets page, because he basically used all these snippets in this website. So the subscribe to a newsletter. I mean, he's not using MailChimp, he's using button down email, but the snippet is very similar, and you can just because the way Next.js is built with pages and APIs, it's just very easy to implement this for a different newsletter subscription or sign up or something like that. But here he makes it very, very simple, that simple even, to show that. You also have great entries on Google Sheets, Google Analytics, which are not used anymore here, but I believe one of these privacy preserving analytics tools he's using on his website. We can check it out in a bit in the source code. And he's pulling in all these live information. So even though there's a static page, of course, with Next.js, you can also draw in by API live data, and he's doing that here. So he has newsletter subscriptions for subscribers. his top tracks, and so on and so forth. The guestbook that I mentioned, and we'll dive into that, how he built this as well. You can just log in and you can leave something on his website. So it's a very long page. Should probably add pagination here, but it's kind of cool, all the love that people show. Yeah, he's also got these static tweets, which are also very cool. A kind of bit different implementation than the one from Next.js. They've released this like static tweet generator, where they've, similar to here, they've rebuilt the entire Twitter UI basically. And I see he's done something similar. I guess this is his like top tweets that he likes, and that's a very cool idea. Yeah, I guess last but not least, there's some uses like his gear, his setup, his gear, also very cool. So for people, from work from home stuff, definitely also an inspiration for people who need to use or work from home. But back to the code. So he's obviously got some contributors here already, 29. So people who've added pull requests. It's very cool. I open this in Gitpod just because I like not leaving my browser. Very much like the Next.js team, I'm very much web first, and if I can use something in my browser, I will use it. And I love Gitpod. It's very easy way to spin up a visual code environment that's fully functional. I mean, this is a container that spun up this repository just by prepending basically gitpod io / and then a hash before the GitHub. I'm not promoting Gitpod here. I just love using it, and I love great developer experiences. And I still don't have access to GitHub code spaces, so Gitpod it is. Yeah, I guess npm should be available here. Just install this. Then for now we can dive into sort of like what's going on here. Like I said, he's running the latest canary version of Next. For those who have noticed, since I think Next, was it 10.2 or was it 10.1 already? You could enable the Webpack 5 feature flag here, or in this case, future flag. I guess that's something that we will announce in the summer for the next, the special announcement of Next.js. We've got it all installed, and then we could potentially run it from here, but that's kind of what we want to do right now. We want to just browse the repo and see if there's something interesting going on here. The first thing I guess I learned from the repo itself was the structure of the document file. I know I could have probably read the Next.js documentation and found the same thing, but I love in a way to see it in an application and how it's applied here. I know Lee wrote extensively about how to embed fonts faster, so that they're sort of like preloaded and not cross-loaded or had to be cached from, let's say, Google Fonts or something like that. Definitely worth checking this out. It will probably make a lot of websites a lot faster, especially static pages, instead of loading these huge fonts. So this is sort of like the first thing I learned, the split between the document and the app. And yeah, this is basically your HTML doc. if you were to write like a normal like index.html page, this is sort of like where it would start, like open HTML and then so on. What's also very cool is, like I said, the Guestbook. And for Guestbook, he used Redis. So he's importing libredis, which we can check out here. It's basically IO instance, Redis instance where he adds his URL. There's a lot of I would say serverless Redis instances that you can get just as a URL. I'm pretty sure Railway is offering one. I don't want to lie. Can I see? Yeah. So Railway.io .app is also offering a Redis instance. So you could just spin up one here and connect it to your Redis instance here as a URL. And then yeah, going back to, so we have the Redis, we have the Guestbook. And what's happening here is, he's fetching the initial entries. Obviously, he's using get static props. For those who don't know what get static props is, definitely get on this. That's very fundamental to how Next.js caches and catches any kind of data on any of the pages. It's very useful. You can basically revalidate it, and it loads the first amount of entries that will be caught from the Redis. So his entry is called Guestbook here in the Redis store, and yeah, he sorts it by the latest ones. So that's quite straightforward as well. We could check out the Guestbook component, but I think that's not super interesting. What's more interesting is really where he fetches the Guestbook entries, and that's happening in the pages/API/Guestbook. And then we can go to the index page where he fetches all of them. And yeah, and we also have individual entries that get fetched, and that's happening here. So that's great inspiration for those who want to use Redis in their static page. They have maybe something small that they want to save, and don't want a huge database, and just something that's fast where they can store small amount of information. Definitely the way to go. I also like that it's so detached from everything else, but you don't have this huge database instance where you have to think about and what you store inside. Spin up a small Redis instance, save. What is he saving in here? If we go back to Guestbook, he's saving really the the email, the date, time, the body text, and when it's created and who is it created by. So that's very simple. If we look further to, for example, the newsletter, so that's still in the API. If we look to the newsletter, for example, we have also again get static props, but also we have get static paths, because we do want to also cache and fetch newsletter paths. and that's also very nice. What I forgot to mention is that all the data basically lives inside this GitHub repo as well. So all his newsletters, all his blog entries, they're basically just MDX files, snippets as well. So they're all MDX files and they just live in here. So because of that, we can basically, if we go to, that's what you see, is like MDX file here. We have also a different component for MDX components where we catch, convert basically our links to MDX components. We have our newsletters. These are, just links. We have our fetcher, which is just, a wrapper for the original fetcher. But what I wanted to show you guys was actually, right. So the subscription, how that works. So like I said, he's using button down email to get subscribers. And this is sort of like the API call that's called once you subscribe to his newsletter. I mean, this is super useful for anyone who wants to spin up, a landing page, collect those subscribers, start a waiting list, start your own newsletter. This is sort of like, the first real function or API call that you want to use. And that's super helpful. What I also like to see, probably in the future, since Notion just released the API in beta, it would be cool to sort of like offload all these, files here that are currently written in MDX format. You could easily add this to Notion probably. I mean, you would not have this image tag here, but you could probably get around this through a compiler, or like once you fetch the data from the Notion, you could like replace the images with next images to make them load, super fast in all aspect ratios. Same for, newsletters. Currently, they live here, but they could also, live in Notion or some other kind of data store where it's maybe a bit easier, a more native CMS than GitHub. Yeah, I mean, what we have here, GitHub, to get all stars and followers, just playing with the GitHub, repo. I think it's not even a private, doesn't even need to be a private repo because it's, public information. So it's just catching stargazers and followers, right? And what's nice is, he's using cache control here so that, he is revalidating, around every, I think this is in seconds, so it's in like every 10 minutes, in case, there's a refresh or something. GitHub is not so, followers will not just fly in on GitHub or stars, unless, have a huge popular repo that's, just happened. But yeah, overall, there's a few cool scripts to generate like an RSS feed, which is super helpful if you have a blog. So that's also something that you want to, look at. Same for, sitemaps. It's all about, being found on the internet. Sitemaps do help. And yeah, that's a quick, script to convert those, markdown images to next images. So I guess he's already doing this, so wouldn't be so different to to do this for, blog posts that are fetched from Notion, for example. Let me just double check. I mean, this is quite straightforward, so I'm not going to show how to, deploy it on Vercel. I would definitely use Railway for, the Redis store, because it's just a no-brainer. Other than that, what's kind of cool, and that's a next feature, or a next JS specific configuration, is definitely those security headers. I think he also made a very great blog post about that. But the other thing is, it was not here. Was it here? No. It was like redirects basically, but I can't seem to find them now. Was it? They were also not here. So there was a file with redirects, and I just can't seem to. It's in the Vercel.js. So it's Vercel specific, not Next.js specific. Yeah, so in Vercel, if you upload it, similar to Netlify, you've got this kind of redirects. And what's cool is, you sometimes you have a PDF file that you have online, but you don't want it, under the specific name, so you can just change that name for Vercel. Same thing, for projects, for example, it points to resources, because people tend to type Rob projects, and it redirects me to the about page. Same thing, what's very smart, I think, is about 30 minutes, or always super long, to share the Calendly link. The Calendly link might get outdated, and just sharing this is much shorter. And if your Calendly link gets outdated, or you want to update it for some reason, you can just change the link. Don't need to change the actual source. Yeah, and he's on YouTube, so he's not live today, I guess. Okay, I want to open this as well. So he's on YouTube. He's crossed, the 12K mark of subscribers, which is amazing. Do follow him here. He has great content. He goes live. He talks to other, developers in the ecosystem. He talks to other DevRel members, and just overall, great contributor to this ecosystem. And yeah, thanks so much for letting me highlight your very personal profile, portfolio, but also it's one of my favorite Next.js repositories. And yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and see you guys next time. All right.